Welcome back to Market on Close. I'm Sam Bardas, live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's time now for overlooked stocks. Shares of Globalstar rallying today to its highest level in 11 years after B. Riley raised its price target on the share. So I'm joined by George Tsilis, senior markets correspondent, to get us across this one. What are you seeing as far as what the analyst has said behind this price target boost, George?
Well, I think there's some larger secular catalysts, to be honest with you, Sam, with companies like with Globalstar, which is really a prominent player in the mobile satellite systems or communications space. So they provide satellite communications using low orbit satellite constellations, things like GPS trackers, like emergency alerts. If you have an iPhone and use Find My Location services, that's actually run through GSAT. And they have about 60% of the total sales actually come from Apple, which is quite large. But nonetheless, I think what's happening here, secular-wise, is low orbit satellite constellations are now becoming the go-to when it comes down to direct-to-cellular connectivity for communications versus the traditional tower system that is used through 5G and 6G networks now, as they're evolving, that companies like Verizon, AT&T serve the marketplace. If you look at this last year, the company's performed exceptionally well. It's up about 95% over the last 5 years. It's up close to 700% because of these secular tailwinds. And we know that, of course, companies like Starlink, which again, work through SpaceX, through Elon Musk's other subsidiary companies, are really moving aggressively to, of course, provide broadband services, non-traditional wise, in other words, using satellites. So the communications technology using satellites becoming more rapid and ubiquitous. And companies like Apple now have services, including their SOS services, which allow for direct-to-cellular text communications in emergencies. And these are, again, used by not only the private sector, but also in the public sector.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been looking at across, some of these services, as you say, that it provides to Apple with, Find My Phone, and also they're talking about the Apple Watch as well to actually be run by Globalstar too, as far as that satellite network is concerned. So it's a pretty small player in the scheme of things, but some pretty big customers and partnerships here. I mean, I've just seen, as far as some of the analysts that cover this stock, there's not a lot out there, just a handful, but most of them are in the buy camp. So it seems to be doing something right as to, why it's rallied up almost 90% year to date. What have people been saying as far as, how it sort of stacks up against the rest of the bunch?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think there's a lot going on here. I mean, first off, if you think about the nature of low orbit satellite communications, companies like Starlink, Amazon through Blue Origin are actually moving aggressively into broadband. If you look at Iridium, which competes with GSAT, also Viasat, these are companies that actually have low orbit satellite communications for devices, things like iPhones, for instance, as well as iPads and so forth. They also provide services to, of course, things like government needs, forestry services, and things of that capacity. But nonetheless, if you look at last quarter, when the company reported earnings on the 6th, they actually posted a 1 cent profit versus a 3 cent loss. So anytime you move from losses to profits close to the break even, you do see a continuation potentially in the trend, which is what we're seeing. If you look at B. Riley, they actually increased their target to 75 from 60, maintain a buy rating. They actually see something more compelling because, like I mentioned, if you look at Starlink, SpaceX, they don't necessarily have direct-to-device communications that GSAT does. So maybe they're speculating that there's a potential tie-up between Starlink and GSAT going forward. And that actually might, if you think about it, because Apple is the largest customer of GSAT. They have 85% of the capacity for GSAT's, this is Apple now, technology network. Now, that actually might bind Tesla together, using Starlink, alongside Apple. So I'm just saying that there's maybe a bigger story here behind this call by B. Riley, which seems to be more of a tie-in or a binding element, more of a strategic alternative to the business, maybe bound up with companies like Starlink.
Got it. All right. Well, the street likes it. GSAT sitting up at almost 15% in trade today. Thank you so much, George Tsilis, for getting us across that name.